Hey everybody. Um, Today I'm going to make a video about a beloved pet peeve of mine. I wasn't going to talk about it again, although I do try to bring it up every once in a while, just because I think it's kind of encapsulates a lot of the problems that we have as a society, but also the problems like I have and you have and we all have, just like as individuals, like fallacies and short-sightedness in logic, and I don't know, like situational comprehension or something like of this cluster F of a matrix called life. So what I want to talk about, I saw it on that, I don't even know how to pronounce his name. I haven't watched his stuff, but it was recommended to me because it was that like Asmongold, or like he's a big he does a lot of reactions, and it was on new evidence that Courtney Love had in fact potentially offed Kurt Cobain. And this was why it was recommended to me. This guy who's very popular, although I don't Asmongold, it really doesn't matter. It was like new evidence about the fucking that after all these decades, Kurt Cobain didn't in fact kill himself, and Courtney did it. This is so crazy to me because it is so wrong, like illogical, and on every fucking level. But just like fundamentally, the crazy thing is that if she was going to kill him, the very points that they try to make always are the exact same points in my mind that prove that she would have never done it. And the main one being that, it's something to the effect of Kurt was too high. Toxicology, reports reveal scientifically, for a fact, toxicology, that he was too high to have held and pulled a shotgun. He was basically alive but unconscious. He was that high with the amount of drugs in his system. That's always been like a big point of aha, see, foul play, there goes our Jesus Christ superstar of a hero, the martyr himself, Kurt Cobain. And it's funny, these people that are turned into pop culture martyrs, it's like they have to die first. If anybody lives long enough, you're not going to be looked at fondly. But if you die young and you're a celebrity, it's like the kind of the beauty and the irony of the 27 Club. It almost makes me jealous. Someone who clearly has mental problems, because you die young and that's the trade-off. But in a way, you're loved forever. You can't live long enough to see it, but the only reason you have that, you're forever young, you're forever loved, you're never old and wrinkled and fallen from grace, because you're dead. It seems kind of like a fair trade in a lot of ways. But that's the big, it's just nails on a chalkboard of my soul to hear people say he was too high to have done that, because it's a big misunderstanding, and a short-sightedness, just a total fallacy of logic. It's a misunderstanding of how highs are looked at. And here's the bottom line. Measurements of too high. What is too high? What does that mean? Think about it. Too high to have been held. Well, how to have been for a gun to have been held? Too high to have done anything. How would that be measured? Because the toxicology in people is going to vary greatly according to your level of dependence. That is why that's completely negated. That is a moot point. Absolutely irrelevant, because the standards are based on non-addicts. Okay, the standards of what a person can tolerate, of what a fatal overdose is, it's based on non-addicts. It's based on medication, take every 4 to 6 hours. Okay, obviously Addicts don't adhere to that. That is why, once again, this completely negates it. He's too high. I don't want to hear it. This is bullshit, because it's the same reason why a cop can be at like a crime scene and his glove can bust, or her glove can bust, or oh shit, they brushed up against something by accident, and just through touch alone, they overdose. Okay. But an addict can inject directly into their bloodstream 10, 100, whatever times that amount. And also, toxicology is not based on addicts fatally overdosing. It's based on those type of things where it's like, oh shit, how did that happen? How did they die? It's based on, the standards are made based on non-addicts. Okay. That is verified with toxicology of people who overdose through like accidents, or those tragic tales of like, oh my God, they did it one time and then they dropped dead. Okay. It's not based on, because addicts don't overdose and die like that. You cannot compare an addict to a non-addict with fatal toxicology. You cannot. When I was, one of the times that I was an addict, in active addiction, when I was strung out, to the nth degree, there was actually a couple different times in my life. Like Dilaudid were one of my like drugs of choice, you could say. And I looked it up, and it said that Dilaudid is 5 to 10 times stronger than morphine. One dose of my drug of choice is 5 to 10 times stronger than morphine. Okay? How is it that I am living here? Living proof. Proof is in the pudding. Hello. Not dead yet. How is it possible that in one syringe, don't tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, in one syringe you can fit 4 Dilaudids. It's why my hands are messed up. Look at that. That's from IV drug addiction, okay? You can fit 4 Dilaudids pressed down into powder, and it takes up 90 cc's of the syringe, and then you just pull up the 10 and shake it up really well, and you can barely draw back and inject it. And that's graphic, but I'm being graphic because I'm telling you as a fact. One time I did 4 Dilaudid K4s, okay? 5 to 10 times stronger than morphine for one. I did 4 in one single shot directly into my vein. That was just that one high that day. That was the only high that day. Why? That's what I'm saying. The average addict, your toxicology is never going to be taken, because you can handle shit that would drop even probably a horse, let alone an average non-addict. So, of course, he could have held a shotgun. Hello, it's called being a rock star. It's called being an addict. It's called living a walking, expression of pain, which is what active drug addiction is. So that's a moot point. It really is. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you understand anybody who said, oh shit, he could have held a gun? For a fact, he could have. It's not based on addicts. So scratch that, please. It's not impossible. The toxicology proves nothing. That is talking about, the impossibility is based on people who are not drug addicts, let alone a rock star habit. The second thing is that if he would have been that incapacitated, okay, hypothetically, if he would have been nodding out, and that's what Montage of Heck was, he was nodding out on his feet. That's being a junkie for you. Once again, no shade. I was there. Okay, that's why this is like personal, because I know what I'm talking about, because it's just typical sexism. It really is. It's the music industry is sexist. We know this. The whole damn thing is sexist, but it's really all of them, because the system is anti-humanity. So it gets women where it can. It gets Black people where it can. The ultimate group that's like easy pickings to keep down is the impoverished. But it gets everybody in every way it can, because it's anti-humanity, but yet it needs humanity, the vast majority of us, to feed into the system. So no wonder it hates us, right? But it's just so sexist. If he was that incapacitated, Think about it. Why would there have been a gun used? If you hate your husband that bad, you have a 1-year-old daughter. How stupid is that anyway? Um, Even like hypothetically, but it's not about her really. I mean, it is about this subtle sexism, like just kind of baked into this fucking grotesque pie. But really, it's not even about her. It's about him. He was just like, I always knew he was overrated in terms of like grunge because he didn't come first and he didn't do it best. And that's just my opinion. Some people, it's like Elvis or the Rolling Stones. I've always liked the Rolling Stones. However, my first crush was Elvis because I'm weird like that. I was a teenager. I loved Elvis, but, in terms of musically, like the Rolling Stones blow them out of the water, or the Beatles, the Rolling Stones or the Beatles. I love the Rolling Stones. I kind of think in a way, the Beatles are overrated because they didn't get awesome until drugs, until acid, but, but anyway, I'm going off on a rant here. It's just like the people and the bands that just blow up. It kind of is what it is. And everybody knows, like, wow, were they really better than Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains? Not really. It's just like dealer's choice or whatever. It's like personal preference. But they were just that band that blew up, and it was like I could see where that level of instantaneous fame on mental health would just be like a clusterfuck. And especially if you're already so down, because as we know, it's not about the money, which is it is and it isn't. Everything's always about money. Money doesn't buy happiness, but like if you're miserable, it can make it worse. If you're happy, it can make it, infinitely better because it buys options and opportunity. So, but anyway, that's beside the point. It's really about him. They cannot fathom that, as Dave Grohl said, there goes my hero, that their hero who wrote about it, who sang about it, who talked about depression, who, talked about not being able to cope with everything, with the trauma of his life through his lens of consciousness. It's the story of every addict, and it's also very personal because fucking Courtney Love's awesome. She's the shit. I love Hole. But also because I know for a fact, and I've said this before, but clearly it needs to be said because of that stupid ass reaction video. It needs to be said that every addict kind of has that fantasy, that daydream. And the harsh truth is that if you're an addict, then you are a good person. You wouldn't almost be torturing yourself by slowly and or quickly poisoning yourself if you weren't a good person. If you didn't give a shit, you wouldn't feel the need to punish yourself, or you would just take it out on others. But even then, hurt people, but still, like, some of the best people are addicts, and it's just like you're just this walking wound. And as horrible as the addict's life is externally, that is an expression of internal, just like soot in your soul, and like a feeling of just like brokenness that just feels like absolutely inherent. But it is the perception of the addict to die with a needle in your arm and a smile on your face. It's like a constant daydream. I thought about it very frequently. I wanted to die in fall. I wanted to die that way in Halloween. I don't know. It's probably going to need like some type of like a trigger warning or something to even post. But, not trying to be graphic, but let's get real about it. That's what every addict wants to do, is die by a fatal overdose. However, as we just covered, he had a rock star tolerance. I think because I thought the exact same thing for years, to go out that way. I think he was done with it. I think him and Courtney were fighting. She had said as much. They had had a horrible like blow up fight. I think he had everything. Dream come true, was living the life, and he was still miserable and couldn't see a way out. So he wanted to take that addict way. It just, I used to feel it's kind of eerie, almost like a feeling to recollect on the giddiness, the sheer like, oh, just like the the euphoria of even the daydream of having that one last hurrah, to go out with a literal, figurative, and metaphorical bang. And that's what he wanted. So he got what he could. He got as high as he could. He already had a tolerance. He did it all. And the gun was backup. I'm telling you, I've thought it. I've been there, done that. Every addict has, at least IV addict, has thought that. The gun was a backup just in case it wasn't enough, because his tolerance was like that, because you do not out for hours and then come to, or extended periods of time. And I think when he came to that last time, it was like, son of a bitch. That also explains why the handwriting was different. Like I said, the handwriting video, the suicide note, well, that proves it too, because she wrote, the writing was different. He was in different levels of a high, dumbass. Or if she was going to write it, the second half, I don't know. Let's think critically here. She would have just wrote the whole damn thing, right? Right? I could actually see Courtney adding to it at the bottom and then adding onto it. But if it's his writing at the top, why was he writing a suicide note? If he was just like getting some feelings out and she was going to write a suicide note, why not just write the whole damn thing? She obviously wasn't worried about that because she didn't do it. He was probably him in different levels of consciousness. Think fucking about it. Jesus Christ. It's so obvious. But here's the thing. Okay, toxicology report, moot point. Suicide note, moot point. If he was that incapacitated, then she would have shot him up with a syringe full of air. It would have given him a heart attack. 2 syringes, heart attack. And it would have looked like natural causes. She could have put a pillow over his face if she was that maniacal. Natural causes. If he is that incapacitated, and even as an average junkie, and like I said, montage of heck, he was not standing up at his daughter's first birthday party, okay? That's what an addict is. She could have easily gotten him in that state. There's no need for a gun. And now they're saying, oh, well, there wasn't gun residue, print, this and that. Do you really think these bumfuck cops, and they all are, some of them are great, but do you really think a cut and dry case like that? Hello, he'd only been talking about it for years, right? Openly. Writing was literally on the wall. His friends, bandmates, and mother says it. But you really think a fucking Courtney's deadbeat dad and some fucking fame whore, like the 2 people on the planet who would keep this fucking rumor, this sick, sexist rumor alive just so you could fucking put your hero a little higher up on the cross? It is fucking disgusting. It would not, if she would have done it, it wouldn't have been with a gun. Think about it, geniuses. I mean, case closed. Oh, but no. Women never get their flowers. A guy can do it. A guy can do it all day. I said that too about Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Hunter S. Thompson. When a guy gets high and lives that life, he's just whatever, but the woman, she's like dirty, she's a whore, she's this, she's that, she's a killer. Y'all are fucking stupid. But anyway, sorry about the rant. It needed to be said. Have a good night.